All right, so we are starting off with the eye, and I am just going to take a kneaded eraser, clean up some of that outline that I've just lightening up. So I'm not erasing it. I'm finding any places that are particularly darker than I would like and just blotting them, just a few little blots. It's not really that dark. The transfer paper doesn't make the outline too dark, so we don't have to worry about that too much. And we don't want a dark outline anyway. So I am going in with the white Prismacolor here. And I am looking for some of the little highlights that we see. And I just want to lay those down first. I'm really studying my reference photo quite a bit, so just going back and forth. And down here on the lower portion of the eye, it's kind of lighter, so I'm just scribbling in like a really light layer of white and right down here. Okay, so that was pretty simple. The highlights up here, definitely want to get those with the nice solid white, and then kind of where the light is reflecting off of, like that moist eye, is also coming in white. So now I want to go in with a little bit of a kind of red brown. I really like the, I'm thinking terracotta. Yep, let's go with the terracotta. So just a light layer of this, and this is going to be kind of some of the undertone that we're going to go for. And into the iris, I'm doing small little scribbles here. Watching out for the highlight. Can go all the way to the border, but keep it super light. And I'm kind of finding areas that are just reddish. There's not a whole, in the end product, we won't see a whole lot of red, but I like this as the undertone here. And so that is it for the terracotta. Then I'm going to go in with an ochre color. This is called Goldenrod. And I'm going to go over that terracotta with a goldenrod. And again, these are going to be pretty light, and because the eyes are pretty dark. And they have those really beautiful reflections in them. So little scribbles. I'm just making little circular marks here. So when I mean little scribbles, it's just looking like, almost like when people used to do cursive, it almost looks like that. Just like these circular motions like that. So when I say scribbles, they're the same as circles, and they're really teeny tiny here. And just going up in there. Nice. Okay. Let's put down some black. I'm going to go over the pupil area. Nice circular motion here. I'm going to sharpen this up. So for the eyes, I do like some sharp pencils, and that really allows me to get the detail in. With fur, I'll work with more dull pencils, and that totally works. You know, to keep them sharp all the time, can be quite expensive because you're going to really go through those pencils pretty quick. So I got my sharp black pencil and I'm just going to do some gentle outline where this, just to see where this eye is. And so here is like the main pupil here, and then it's pretty darn black throughout this particular area here. And just kind of going in really, really lightly with the circles, with the scribbles. Going over a little bit of the terracotta. Watch out for the highlight. So one of the reasons I like to go in with the black right away is because I like to kind of outline those highlights. So I don't forget about them later on and then color over them. So getting that part of the iris. Going in with soft pressure and down to the bottom of the eye. And one thing I want to be careful of is that the ochre, what we were using earlier called Goldenrod, it can really come out a bit greenish when you mix it with black. Not to worry, because we're going to add some other colors in, like violets and browns, to help get rid of any greenish tones that we might get. And if we don't get any, then that's awesome. But just want to focus on getting that full outline there. Pretty much mostly the iris. We're not doing the whole entire eye here yet. Getting where that shadow is, so that's coming down over the eye and into the eye. And get that little highlight in there. That's on the lower lid. Got some darks in here on the inside of that iris. And burnishing that pupil. So when I say burnish, I'm going in with a very firm pressure, and I want to get rid of any kind of grain from the paper that will show through. So you can see here it's grainy, and here there's no grain. So this is burnished and this is not burnished. So we want to get rid of that grain when we're burnishing our piece. And going in a little bit more. Bit stronger there. And we can even do this whole outline of the eye. And I just oftentimes love to start with the eyes. You know, not always 100%, but I find it's like the piece really comes to life like right away when that eye goes in, when the eyes, if you're drawing a portrait with one eye, then just that eye. But yes, when both of these eyes go in, it really gives it so much life. So I want to go in with a nice brown right now. So gonna go in with the So I have chocolate and gonna get in, I want that terracotta and a little bit of the ochre to show through. So I am gonna color over them a little bit, not everywhere, but in a lot of places. And then I'm gonna color in the rest of this eye. Nice. Let's go over it with a little bit more black and kind of redefine these shadows a little bit more. So it kind of curves down here. And I want to blend it, add a little bit more up in there. You almost can't really quite see the pupil. It almost kind of blurs in with the shadow. I notice dogs have usually very dark eyes, and sometimes the iris and the pupil are not quite as defined. And you know, that's perfectly okay. Don't try to define them if that's not what you see. All right, and then I'm going to take a little bit of this, our burnishing tool. Got to fish mine out a little bit. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of the burnishing tool. This is really great for getting colors to blend. When you perhaps don't want to add any more layers, getting the color to fit in within all the grain and the tooth of the paper. So whenever you fill paper and there's any layer of texture, that's going to be called grain. Sometimes it's also called tooth. They're slightly different. And then I just kind of clean the tip of my paper off on just like a scrap piece of paper, and I'll just kind of clean it off like that. So I can go into lighter areas and it's not going to take that dark color and dirty it. And the great thing about using these paper stumps, these blending tools, burnishing tools, is they just really kind of help expedite things a little bit faster. Let's go in with a little bit of the red, excuse me, terracotta. Bring in some more reds. Going back over with the Goldenrod. Clean up that highlight a little bit with the electric eraser, and then burnish it a little bit more with the with white itself. And it's really okay if you get a little bit of darks into your highlights, because one thing I just like to remember is that highlights are rarely often completely white themselves. They are just like an off-white, and I think having them be just a little off-white is going to look a little more realistic. Clean up that highlight there. So these are kind of a little bit more even with each other. And this one has some interesting little texture going on in it. Let's add a little more brown in there. So a little more chocolate. So I'm not always pressing completely hard. I'm usually going in with a medium to light pressure, and going in with many layers allows me to constantly build and build and build. And a little bit more towards the bottom. Let's actually go in with some sepia. Let's see, where is my sepia? Actually, let's go in with espresso. And kind of go under the eye, get this nice little transition. Going from dark to light on the bottom portion of this eye. And then just want to kind of clarify a few things there. Nice. So then I want to go in with the white, and so it's kind of faded here, and just little circles kind of go up on the inside of the iris, going down and towards the outer portion of that iris. Redefine that little highlight in there. And if you feel like, oh, that highlight's not quite what we want, I'm gonna take our electric eraser and we're gonna clean it up in here. Nice clean edge. And I always have like a little piece of paper on the side so I can either do a little swatching, kind of figure out what my colors are, or clean off the tip of the pencil like I just did with the white to make sure I'm not getting any darks where I don't want them to be. Going in with the black, redefining that line. So usually we'll erase and then we'll kind of add it back in the way we want it to be. And then I just want to go down here a little bit. Take these shadows down into the eye, or excuse me, highlights down into the eye, into the shadow area. We'll clean it up with the black. First, we'll just kind of reinforce it with the white, make sure that tip is cleaned off, and just going in there with the white, nice, going in with the black. and making these little shadows of the eyelashes within that highlight on the outer portion of the eye. It's gonna be on your left side. And just kind of burnish it with a little bit more darks here. We have the dark brown. So usually within this dark area, I don't like it to look completely black unless it is, but there is hints of other colors. So I'm taking that dark brown, going around the dark area, but not into the pupil, with my dark brown pencil. And it just gives a little bit more oomph, gives a little bit more life. Yeah. So I want to go into the inner portion of the eye. And going into the whites of the eyes, sometimes you don't always see all the white portion of the eye because the iris on a dog is so big. And also the whites of the eye are not completely white, so kind of like it when a little bit of the black kind of gets smudged into the white of the eye. Kind of reinforce that with the black. Reinforce that border. A little espresso. Nice. Good. Good, good. And ooh, where am I going? Grab that white. So we have a black little strip right there, and we're going to add that in. And I want to kind of curve this a little bit more. So I'm just going to take off a little bit of this portion here because I don't like the shape that I've created. So even though you have transfer paper, some people ask me if is it cheating, and I say absolutely not, because sometimes you print out your reference photo and you lay down your lines and you're like, oh, that's not exactly how it looks in the reference photo when you're actually looking at it again and you're actually coloring it in. So you do have to kind of spot those corrections, and you have to be able to make the corrections when need be. So you still need an eye for anatomy and stuff like that, but you get it as you go along. So there we go. It's just a little bit more curved, and I just want to emphasize that. So there. Going in with the white. Sometimes you might find yourself holding two pencils at the same time. All right. Yeah, I'm liking that. So some of the black came into this white portion of the eyes. I'll actually call this sclera, and it just adds to it because it gives it like a shadow there. Just have to look into my camera a little bit, like, what does it look like in the camera? Sometimes it's a nice second pair of eyes that can kind of help me see a little bit more what's going on. All right, so I'm liking that so far, and we're gonna add a little bit of some pink. So I've picked out actually raspberry. So a little bit far from pink, but I'm going to go in there really light. And then I'm going to burnish that a little bit with the blending stump. And you can kind of hear I'm cleaning off the tip on my little scrap piece of paper to the side. So it could be any kind of scrap piece of paper, it doesn't really matter what. So just a little kind of almost blots with like just a little wisp. I'm just blotting and blending, blotting and blending. I want to go in with terracotta into this corner of the eye. A little bit of gray. A little bit of the French gray, 90%. Going in with the black. Got that little highlight there, and it kind of comes around. This inner portion of the eye can be so unusual looking sometimes. All right, I want to pull out that highlight, and I'm going to do that with the electric eraser. So that highlight being this highlight down here in the white portion of the eye. And just want to burnish it. Made it rather big. That's perfectly okay if it's a little bit too big. And then we just kind of pull it down a little bit with the white. I'm going to go in to that inner portion of the eye with the white, burnish this down. And integrate it a little bit more. Nice. Let's add a little bit more black. So on that inner portion, kind of just like this neat little black stripe there. And yeah, kind of going back over this area, going back over the pupil. Nice. All right, let's move on to the other eye. All right, so moving into that second eye, we are going to lighten up the outline. So taking my kneaded eraser and just the eye itself, not really much around the outside. And we're going to go in as we went in before. So starting off with the white. Getting in the highlight. And there is this kind of little interesting mark in the eye here. It's like an L shape. Getting around that eye, getting the highlights. I just love those highlights like at the bottom of the eye. They just really make it look awesome. and then a little highlight up in here. So it doesn't look like a whole lot when I first put it down. And then we're gonna just go in with that terracotta. Oh, and then I did wanna kind of put a light layer, just scribbling down a light layer, the bottom here, with that white. And going in with the terracotta. Again, a nice light pressure. And then we went to the Goldenrod, and relatively staying with the, you know, same layering that we did for the other eye. I think it's really important to, you know, I think it's important to do both eyes like in one sitting if you can do it. Don't get down on yourself if you can't. But we want to definitely make these eyes have like the same color. I only say that because I want like the eyes to have like that uniform look, because if you wait like a few days and you go in with a second eye, this is the black, and you go into the second eye several days later, you know, sometimes you forget like, okay, what colors did I use? And also, you know, you can have the benefit of just setting aside the colors you use for the eye if you have to go in later on. But also it just kind of makes it look a little bit more uniform overall when you do it in one sitting. And getting that pupil in. Nice light texture, light pressure. And then I'm going to start to do some of the outlines. Kind of comes down here, rounds off. Really studying my reference photo, making sure that shape of the eye is really coming through. So I don't want to just rely on my outline here. My outline helps me tremendously, but I really want to study what's going on in that reference photo. And I think I may have put a little too much black down, but the great thing is I put it in a really light layer, so it's easy to erase. Just take off a little bit here. Nice, okay, so that is looking a lot better. And I kind of twist my pencil to find that sharp edge. You'll see me do that pretty much throughout the drawing process here. So sometimes it's hard to get those nice sharp lines with the highlights, and that is where I like where the electric eraser comes in and really helps to sharpen up those lines. So not to worry. So I'm drawing in that shadow. Kind of get this bottom portion of the eye drawn in. Kind of, yeah, a little bit better. And I want to outline that iris, and then it kind of shows where that white portion of the eye is. Right, so where was I? Going in with the black and just really imitating and rounding off. This bottom lid is nice and rounded. Kind of working in the shadow up here. And make sure your pencil is sharp enough. So going in with a medium pressure, I definitely want to go in with that brown a little bit later on. And going into a little bit of the goldenrod and terracotta that I used earlier. And just doing nice little circles around here. Avoiding that little, there's this little L-shape area. I think I drew over it a little bit. Don't worry, we can always erase that. I'm getting the inside of the eye, going up. And sometimes I'll, find a sharp edge when I'm using the side of the pencil, and sometimes I'll have to just go straight in, just have it pointing in, and I can find that straight edge again. So it's kind of like a little trick I do to kind of keep myself from constantly sharpening the pencil all the time. All right. Now I'm going to go in with chocolate and again little scribbles and the iris on that outer portion of the eye. Kind of making my way around the highlights. Getting into the lighter portion. We have this like kind of a secondary reflective light in this lower area. We're gonna definitely pull that out towards the end as we did on this other side. And I kind of want to go in with a little bit more terracotta. Pull out a little bit more of that red brown color. Just in this lower area, maybe a little bit over here. Nice. So going back in with the chocolate, She has some pretty chocolate eyes. I feel like most dogs are referred to them as female. And then let's go in with the espresso. Going in kind of into the shadow area. Because I do want that pupil to stand out a little bit. So I don't want this like black shadow with a black pupil and it just all looks black. It's gonna look, it's just gonna look a little bit flat. So this is gonna create like a gentle differentiation of those darks in there. And going up the top, we haven't used the blending stump yet. Let's go ahead and do that. Go into the darks here. You know, maybe we should start with the lights. Probably make it a lot easier to, you know, go in with a cleaner tip and then go into the darks. So I went into the lights and going into that bottom area. And into the darks, the dark shadow. We're kind of blending the pupil in with the shadow, and that's okay. We'll clarify that soon here. Sometimes a blending stump can kind of desaturate or dull the colors a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. I think one of the benefits of using that blending stump is just getting it into the color into that grain, so we could burnish so much easier. And just blending the colors too. It's awesome. All right, so let's go back in with that black and clarify that pupil. So we're burnishing it, and we're gonna define this outline a little bit more. I'm gonna sharpen this a little bit. Get that nice sharp tip again. Get the little wood grains off of it. Going under that eye, so going a little bit. I don't know if you can hear that motorcycle. I'm sorry about that if you can. I think someone's got to show off a little bit out there, apparently. Never quite understood it, but you know, whatever. And just getting this outline. So while I have this nice sharp tip, I'm just like, all right, gotta get a nice clean outline in there. Sometimes when I'm editing this video, I'm just like, oh, I didn't realize. You don't realize what sounds get picked up until afterwards. Let's go in with the dark brown. Get into the iris. I've been kind of tiptoeing around this little L shape. And I think it's kind of like another, I think it's a reflection in the eye. But it is kind of very off-white. It is quite dark. So I'm kind of allowing it to be a little vague right now. And I'll pick it up here in a little bit. And going into the dark shadows. Let's go in with the gray. So we have the, where's the gray? So the French gray, 90%. I went over that highlight just a wee bit because I don't want it to be completely white. Let's pull out that one little highlight on the upper eye with the electric eraser. So we added a little too much. That's okay. I'd kind of rather add a little too much highlight than not enough. Just go back in with the black, go on top, go underneath. That's nice. That's good. Let's go in with the white here. Just want to, there's like kind of an extra dark speck on that highlight that I don't want. So reinforcing these highlights. Let's see what happens when we add this reflection, kind of blend these colors, these neighboring colors in. I think that looks pretty good. Do you want to go over that with the espresso and just clean up this line here a little bit? Okay, nice. So we have this nice reflection down here, and I'm just going to go in with the white, nice circular movements in here. Yeah, I think it really cleans that up really nicely. And going over with the dark brown, just kind of want to create this shadow, clean it up a little bit. Going in with the black, have a little bit more black here, and just want to pull that back out. Perhaps I take a little bit more time on the eyes than I do with most areas, because again, it's all about the eyes. Everything else, you know, kind of comes second. I mean, everything else is obviously important, but you got to get the eyes down. So, and it just takes a little bit of practice. Alright, so I want to go into that white of the eye, clean that up, merge these lines together a little bit more, and that will bring in some of the dark into that white, which is good because it has a little bit of a shadow. And I want to add a little bit of brown to the outside, just a minor little detail. Let's go in with the espresso, kind of clarify this. And let's go in with the black. Oof, just dropping everything here. All right. So we have a lot less white in this portion of the eye, and that is okay. We do have that highlight right here that we want to pull out. I just love the electric erasers. Like, I don't have to move or do anything. It just does it for you. It's so wonderful. And just kind of get under there. Try not to blow on my drawings, but sometimes I can't help it. I like to use the brush instead just because it keeps, well, when you blow on it, it's you know, you might accidentally spit on it, and that happens. But the brush is nice, so, and you can use a blush brush as well.